Hello, everyone. I'd like to take an opportunity to thank you for watching my presentation today. My name is Thomas Jacqueline. This is my IDP paper presentation for our interpersonal communication class. I'm excited to share some insights with you guys about what I learned during our class, through our textbook, through our discussion posts, and it's been a lot that we've gone through. So I will start with an introduction on interpersonal communication, which is a dynamic form and intricate process between two people where we share our ideas, behaviors, relationships, and these are all profoundly influenced by the messages that we share with each other. So it's through this lens that I explored how managing emotions and improving my listening skills as well can help me help others to be able to communicate better with me and vice versa. So that was very impacting on all of my relationships that I've been working on throughout this semester. I focused on one particular relationship very much throughout this semester, which is my relationship with my mother. So, using three key concepts from our textbook and our class, which are emotion management, the five-step listening system, and step family dynamics, these concepts have been able to enhance my relationship with my mother and also our communication, and it has very much deepened our connection. So, the first thing I want to start with is emotion management. So this one has been huge, especially throughout my childhood as I was growing up with my mother. It's a critical skill in effective communication between two people in general. It involves how we handle ourselves during communication, especially when things can get a little bit heated or very excited. Anytime that there's emotions involved, it's going to affect communication on a deep level. So, two main strategies that I have noticed, especially with my relationship to my mother, is going to be venting and suppression. So, venting is when we express our emotions very openly and candidly, sometimes a little bit too intensely for the other party to be able to communicate effectively in return. And this can provide a lot of immediate relief for people when they're able to vent to someone else. However, it often can also lead to misunderstandings and conflicts, especially if the other person is getting extremely animated. It may not even be for malintentions or bad intentions or anything like that, but the other person may take it that way just because of the animation of the uh, interaction. On the other hand, suppression is something that involves holding back emotions. So anybody who's going to suppress during an interpersonal communication with someone else, this can prevent an immediate conflict during that exact time, but it can also lead to more internal stress in the long term and unresolved emotional intention as the communications with this individual goes on further. So these two have been extremely important factors in my relationship with my mother, been extremely irrelevant throughout my entire life, and it's something that before taking this class I was aware of it, but I wasn't necessarily cognizant of how I could either fix that or how we could look at it in a different angle. And it's not something that we had really discussed before. So growing up, I was a suppressor. I would always suppress my emotions, especially during more turbulent times in my childhood. I went through a lot of things with my family, especially regarding with my father and my mother's relationship. So this suppression did lead to a major buildup of resentment and misunderstandings throughout my childhood, especially as I grew up into my teenage years. And, I did make some bad choices that definitely affected my relationship with my mother deeply. So this was, many years ago now, and it's interesting to look back on. But I was overwhelmed definitely with anger in these times, trying to be disobedient. These things always usually lead to communicational breakdowns. So by learning to balance these strategies throughout the years and also with this class and some of the things that I've learned, I've been able to approach our interactions a lot more thoughtfully. So instead of letting emotions dictate my reactions all the time or lack thereof of reactions in the case of suppressing, I'm able to take a step back while you might still call it suppressing. I think it's more of being strategic and actually making sure that the feeling that I am having is conducive to a good communication pattern with the other person. So after I take that step back, I'm able to express them in a more honest and uh, forthcoming way. So this has made my communications with my all my friends and my mother as well much more meaningful and less confrontational because they can tell that I'm not holding anything back from them, and I'm also not blowing up later down the road when I've suppressed for so long that it just becomes something that needs to come out and for better or worse, right? So another thing I'd like to discuss is the five-step listening process, which includes receiving, attending, understanding, responding, and recalling. So this is something that's very important that we went over within our textbook. This is a structured approach, which is mostly for listening and all different types of communication, and it goes on every day around you, which is something that I've really been noticing as I learned about it. It has significantly improved my communication skills across the board, whether it comes to work or classmates or anything like that. Even within our discussion posts, I feel like I've tried to use that as much as possible. Even though it's not a face-to-face communication, I still do believe that is a very important communication throughout text and online communications as well, which we did learn about through our class. So the first step, which is receiving, is in my opinion, the most important because it involves actively hearing and seeing the information being communicated. So if you are already disconnected at that point, you cannot move any further than that throughout your conversation because the other person is going to feel like you're being disingenuous and you just don't have anything to build upon. So either the conversation is just going to end there or it's just going to be something that's very surface level, and that's something that really kills communication for a lot of people is that having that lack of understanding for others and the willingness to take the first step. Attending, which requires focusing on the message and actively understanding what's being delivered to you. That goes very much hand in hand with receiving, but it is different because you do need to actually internalize what's being told to you. So that's a little bit of what I was saying before. Now, understanding means interpreting the meaning of the message based on your prior knowledge. So when you're going, everybody has their own sphere of experiences and cultural backgrounds that can influence their perception of a conversation or a communication with another person. So when you come to start understanding and you're really deeply trying to understand where somewhere else is coming from, you can have more of an opportunity to do the next step, which is responding. So you can see how these build on each other. It's actually very interesting. Responding is something that involves providing feedback to show that the message has been received and understood. So those are two very important things, received and understood. When you're responding to somebody and they understand that their message is being received and understood by you, that's extremely difficult for a lot of people, I think, because while a lot of people can get through the first three steps with no problems, that fourth step of responding and making sure the other person understands that you're internalizing can be very difficult. Finally, the last step is going to be recalling. So recalling is remembering the information for future reference. This is like a cheat code that I have been using a lot in my personal life. Recalling information that people have told me before has allowed me to grow a lot deeper relationships with others, especially because they can tell that I really care if I remember what they were telling me about last week, especially in my job because my job is customer service focused. So that's been really, really a cool thing to learn about and try to implement in my life. And as well with my relationship with my mother, as she can finally feel that I am fully there with her when she speaks with me. When we have these 10-minute conversations, we've been sitting down every day for the past month and a half to just communicate, as after I had brought up to her that I have this project coming up. So applying this process in my daily interactions with her has really been transformative. That's the biggest thing, is with my mother, because previously I would often be like very distracted or preoccupied when we were having conversations, or kind of brush offish, especially if I had a lot of stuff going on, which is understandable, of course, but it did lead to a lot of misunderstanding and miscues on my end. So I did take responsibility for that and try to change that dynamic. Now I dedicate that time every day to try and practice those 5 steps in order to make sure that she feels like she's being understood, that she's being responded to in a way that makes her feel comfortable. And this practice has made our conversations way more productive and deepened our connection on a very meaningful level. So, my empathy, especially, I feel like it makes you more empathetic if you follow these steps, because you pretty much have to be in order to be able to complete it correctly if you're really trying. So that has really strengthened our bond and built a lot of trust between us as well. So the third key concept that I did learn in this class was step family dynamics. So being in a step family myself, and my mother having just recently gotten married with my stepfather here this summer, actually in June, which was an excellent experience. Um, Growing up in that, as because they met when I was about 14 years old, and I was, getting into a lot of trouble during those times during my teenage years. One prevalent issue is triangulation, so that was covered in our textbook, where loyalty conflicts can arise if one person is triangulating the one person against the other. This can create a lot of tension and hinder the development of family relationships. So, excuse me, reflecting on my own experiences throughout my teenage years, I realized how much I resisted this relationship in the beginning, and my initial disdain for him had nothing to do with him. Of course, it was more about just being a angsty teenager, of course, and now coming to understand step family dynamics in a lot more deeper way has helped me see the importance of building these connections, especially with my stepfather and my step family as a whole on his side, having more loving interactions and trying to avoid these negative dynamics such as triangulation. Um, so these really deepened our bond with our whole step family, as well as I tried to practice them. Now, in conclusion, my journey through this interpersonal communication project, throughout all the researching that I was able to do, throughout all of the discussion posts that read so many of my classmates' wonderful insights, by balancing venting and suppression and trying to be clear about those dynamics with my mother, using the 5-step listening process, and understanding family dynamics, I've been able to greatly improve my relationship with my family as a whole, and especially with my mother, as we spend more time together to understand each other. Now, applying these principles has also been something super helpful that I'm going to continue to do after this class, just because we actually really enjoyed it. So I do appreciate the time that everybody took to write the discussion posts, and of course for the professor being able to teach us so fast, especially in this um, rapid course throughout the summer here. We didn't have as much time, but I feel like we got a lot of stuff done. And I just wanted to thank you for listening. I hope these insights resonate with everybody who's listening here. I hope they encourage you to try to improve your interpersonal communication, reflect on your own practices, especially if you have something that might be holding you back, and see how you can use these tools to effectively communicate better with others. Thank you.